trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record, for the record, for the record.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Homeland Daily, always pushing the culture forward. We are at episode 71, and we don't believe in days. We don't believe in hours. We don't believe in weeks. We just believe in pushing the culture forward and making it whatever day we want to make it. Like it's a happy hour some point right now in some of the country. Somebody is sipping on something nice. Hopefully it's a nice rum or a rum cake somewhere. And people are just happy, period. We don't want to get in. Listen. The one thing that 2020 has taught us, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not like you can hop on a plane and go where you want to go. It's not like you can put vacation in the calendar. Like I just had vacation from work, and I was like, "What is this? This is not how vacation is supposed to feel." So I don't know. I don't believe in the weeks and the days anymore, man. I try to make my own time and dates now. So my name is Dane Cameron. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Let me introduce my lovely co-host, beautiful filmmaker, entrepreneur, Liz Charles, who's currently at the WeWork Studios now in New York City.
The WeWork Studios, the Homeland Daily WeWork Studios. I don't know if you heard about this. This is actually, I think this might be the last time you guys see me from here.
Why?
Because this space. So what had happened was there was this thing called the coronavirus, and it caused a mass exodus and a lot of companies to shut down, including my space. So I now have to move to a different space, and I'm going to miss it so much because I have a great view of the entire city from right here.
Man, I guess with people working from home, it's kind of like everybody's like, who needs rework? Like we got rework at home.
Exactly.
But it's sad because that's where ideas were kicked off. That's where meetings were done, where entrepreneurs were built. So it's kind of sad to see that goes down.
Yeah, I mean, there will still be other WeWorks. I'm moving to a different one, but it's just that they're downsizing substantially. Because real estate, right? It's like real estate is expensive. And if you don't have as many entrepreneurs or as many companies, taking up physical space, then they don't need to exist as much anymore.
That's crazy, man. Listen, Liz, before we go any further into the show, because we are actually going to be cutting the gossip today, we will give you an update and it's going to sound weird, the ETA on ETA.
Everyone is making that joke. Gosh.
Are you serious?
You don't tell me you haven't seen that joke on Facebook yet.
Nah, man, that's like a me thing. That's like I'm so serious with you. That's like a me thing right there. Like I felt good about myself. Like I got Liz to laugh. Like I was feeling myself for a second. So I'm sorry, folks. I didn't know you guys were on this already. My bad. Let me take that back. Listen, man, we'll give you the ETA on ETA. I'm gonna stick with it. And you're with the forecast for today and tomorrow. But what we're focusing on is what the world is focusing on right now, and that is the current election in the USA. Joe Biden and the current President Trump are going head to head. Tonight will be the night. We'll find out who's going to be the most powerful man in the free world. And it's kind of sad on both ends because I'm going to be honest with you. I just wish Kamala Harris could be the president of the United States.
Listen, don't even start with me and Auntie Kamala, okay? Because I already told you she looked like she could fit in my family. Yeah.
I know, man. I'm so sad about that. But at the same time, we are also just watching and seeing what's going to take place and being as positive as possible too. So what I did, which was different for the show, was I invited some really cool people in my life, and I wanted to make sure that they were from the United States of America, because I wanted them to give real, true, honest opinions of what it was like for them growing up in the past, and now how things have changed and how they feel about the current status of the USA and how they feel about the election period, because this is the day. This is the day. Tomorrow morning, you wake up.
Dang. I gotta stop you. I have to stop you because I
Okay.
think now it's more important than ever in a time when people have been casting their vote via mail and it completely disproportionately to other years. So many Americans have casted their votes via mail-in ballot, via absentee ballots. And so we really need people to recognize that what happens tonight isn't necessarily going to be the results of the election. So President Trump, Donald Trump wants, he's basically said, if it turns out that after tonight he is winning, then he will try to appeal so that they don't count all of the mail-in votes. But you have millions of mail-in votes that need to be counted regardless of what the outcome of tonight is, because it could shift the entire election, to come to find out, a month from now when you count up, millions of votes, that it was someone else.
Yeah, it's gonna be
unprecedented.
Intense. It is. No, for real, because we just don't know what's gonna happen, right? Like, people are boarding up their homes, their businesses. They're preparing for potential riots. They're preparing for protests. Man, this is a tough time. This is a tough year. So we just kind of want to bring in different opinions, different people, and keep it positive at the same time. But if people have to speak their mind, allow them to speak their mind too at the same time, because frustrations need to be released. And I'm glad that we are doing a show like this tonight, because I think this is something that is going to be broadcast forever. Like, people are going to go back and watch this depending on what takes place tonight, right? So we'll see, man. But before we go any further, I was trying to update the track of this storm, but it looks like our systems are giving us a bit of a problem here. But hey, it doesn't stop us from keeping you informed and letting you know how the weather forecast is going to be. As of 4 p.m. today, Hurricane ETA was located 13.8 north, 83.5 west, about 404 miles to southwest of Grand Cayman, with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. Now, it's moving steady at 3 miles at the current moment. The Cayman Islands Weather Service will continue to monitor the process of this system, or the progress, I should say, sorry. And if you want further details, please right away visit nhc.noaa.gov. The reason we're urging this, and before I even tell you that, let's jump into the stats of the weather forecast for tomorrow, which we can expect some heavy rains, because the one thing that is going to be factual with this storm, it is going to pour down on us pretty hard. We're looking at a high of 86, low 76. Overcast skies will start tomorrow with scattered showers and thunders. It will be heavy at times, leading to flooding of low-lying areas. So if you're in that area, please put sandbags around the door. Just protect yourself early. Be very cautious. That's what's been saving us here in the Cayman Islands. The winds are coming from the east, southeast at 20 to 30 miles per hour right now, with higher gusts. Rough wave heights will be expected tomorrow. We're talking about 7 to 10 feet. Guys, I'm only 6'2". So think about 7 to 10 feet out there. And this, of course, there is a small marine warning that remains in effect. So that means none of y'all go in the open waters and try to swim. Nobody tries this paddleboard thing or saying, hey, I feel like I'm in Hawaii. Let me go surfing. Don't do it. Don't do it. First of all, we're not Hawaii.
Maybe trying.
Two complete places and two different complete systems. You don't want to mess with a hurricane. All right. So we're just going to warn you ahead of time. Let's jump into our first guest, because we have two that's going to be coming in tonight, and we kind of want to make sure that we stay on time. Each interview will be around 15 minutes. We will ask questions that are important to be asked, but at the same time, they're based off of the individual's opinion, and we will respect that. If you have a comment that you want to place on the screen, please go ahead and post it. We just ask that you keep it as positive as possible. We want to make sure that we continue to stick to who we are. That's about pushing the culture forward. But like what me and Rico and Liz always believe in is keeping it as positive as possible. All right. Doesn't stop you from speaking your mind. Just keep it positive, all right? Speak to people how you would want to be spoken to.
And right before we begin, I want to start, and we're going to introduce Damien in a second, but I just wanted to point out a slight thing that happens. For those of you playing the drinking game at home, how many times can my co-host mention their height? We have Rico 1 and Dane 1. So Rico has found a way to mention his height already once on the Homeland Daily, and Dane managed to do so tonight, so that know that they are tall men who are above 6 feet. So if you are playing this drinking game at home, you may be aware. Continue.
Yeah. What? Oh, that was a bad thing to do. I'm sorry.
I just feel like it's a thing men like to do when they're tall. Like they like to let women know.
I'm 6'2", chocolate and married. But yeah, that's true. That's a thing that man. Like, unless you're like shorter than 6 feet, I see Rico's face right now. Then you don't mention it. Do you mention your height?
No, Rico said he was 6 feet in a different episode.
That's right. He is 6 feet. That is true. Because when I stand,
I'm like 6'9" now, 6'10", somewhere around that.
Oh, you like grew overnight. Okay, cool, man. All right, man. Let's give it up for. I don't even know my own brother's height, man. This is my older brother, even though sometimes he feels like he's my younger, because he has way more energy than I do. He's all about living life. Smart. I told it to Liz, but I said I could be biased. He's probably like one of the smartest individuals I've ever met. He's just so well knowledgeable. He reads a lot, studies a lot, and also a man of God and someone that's from the United States of America. You actually spent a lot of time in New York too. You were in a hat, right? Seems like we're a bit delayed. Can you hear us, Damien?
Sure if his mic is low or not.
Yeah, I think your mic is not currently working. You want to try to go back out and come back in? Let's do that. We're going to try to get him out to come back in and see if that works.
Yeah. I mean, but while we are waiting, Damien, honestly, we just have to pray about the storm, Hurricane ETA or Hurricane Eta, just to make sure that everything goes well. I know it was hit very, very bad by Nicaragua was hit very bad by Hurricane Eta. So we just got to really pray for them because they're going through a lot right now in that whole side of the world that's happening and going through Hurricane Eta.
Yeah, definitely, man. While we wait on Damien, also talking about praying, let's bring in a praying man. This is a very good friend of mine, someone I can get to call a friend, a really close friend. I actually refer to him as my brother now. It is Pastor Steve Da Silva. What's going on, Pastor Steve?
What's up, my friend? What's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely no problem. It's a pleasure to have you here. We always say here in the Homeland Daily, it is a privilege to have your time, and we don't take that for granted, man. That's the most important asset that you have. So thank you, Steve, for joining us, man. And we're going to get right into the question because we're going to bring Damien in after you. But we have a very in-depth show tonight. So we're going to start with the questions. What up, Liz?
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, Pastor Steve. You go by Pastor Steve? Yes.
You can just call me Steve. Call me
wonderful, Steve.
You call me Roger. I'll respond to it.
All right. So, I think this is such an interesting time for those who are in the U.S. And I know my pastor spent the last few weeks just kind of speaking to people. How have you felt as a faith leader shepherding people through this time? Are you feeling the anxiety from churchgoers? Do you feel like what do you feel like your place is and your responsibility is during this time?
That's a really good question. It's very unique. It's a very unique time. Because what I've run into, especially, with these elections, it almost seems like every 4 years, it seems to intensify a little bit. The polarization seems to intensify a little bit. And so even for me personally, my biggest thing in this, especially in this kind of season, this election season, it's almost like two opposite camps with such a line drawn in the middle. My personal walk has been a walk of saying, how can I love people even if we disagree with each other? And that's what I've been trying to communicate to other believers and other Christians and even non-Christians, non-Christian friends. It's, I can still love someone and care for someone and respect someone regardless of what their political view is, because my relationship with someone is not based on who they think should be the president or not. That's not how my walk with God is. And I don't personally feel like that that should be what our relationships with other people, whether they're Christians or not Christians, it shouldn't affect how we feel about them, because everybody has different values, different things that they hold to be important to them. But I think if we can keep love as the centerpiece and we can keep respect at the centerpiece, I think we'll go a long way with that.
Yes, most definitely. You know, you talk about having that line drawn. Obviously, there's going to be a winner and a loser at this point during this election. What do you think? What would be your advice to the party that loses? Because you know they have very loyal supporters on each side, the Democrat or the Republican side. What would be your advice to them if they were to be the supporter who end up losing that night?
Sure. Thanks, Rico. You know, for that, I would probably just say, okay, first let's breathe. Let's take a moment. Let's call it what it is. Who we wanted to win did not win. So let's just accept it for what it is. But now the future's ahead of us, right? So we can't camp here. We can't stay here. And we can't blame the other side. Yeah. We can't blame each other. So what I would probably say to those that the person that they would like to have won did not win, for that party, for that individual, I'd probably say 4 things. I'd probably say, be thankful. Why be thankful? Well, be thankful because that person was voted in by a republic. It's not like that person was born into it. It's not like it was a coup and they overthrew the government and now they're the new president. No, they were voted in by the people. So the system is working, right? So at least be thankful that at least they were voted in by the people, right? Then I would say just be humble about it, you know, and humility is hard because it challenges all of us, no matter how mature we think we are, how quote unquote spiritual we think you are. Humility really challenges all of us. If who you vote for won, be gracious and pray for that president. If who you vote for lost, be humble and support the winning president in prayer, right? It doesn't matter, but we can always grow in our humility. Then I would say be hopeful, right? Now, you know, you guys know I'm a pastor. I'm a believer. My faith, personally, I can only speak for myself, is not in politics. There's a place for politics. There's a place for elections. I'm all for it. I'm all for government. But my ultimate hope is not in that. It's in Christ, right? No matter who wins, ultimately, things will ultimately be okay. So be hopeful. And then the last thing is just be prayerful. Just pray. Pray for the leaders that you have. Pray for the government that you have. Pray for the people in office. You know, good leaders can do so many things for us as a country, for us as people. But at the end of the day, they're just people, just like you and I are, you know, and they still need our support. So I would probably just say be thankful, be humble, be hopeful, and be prayerful.
Amazing. Dane, I think your mic is muted right now.
I just realized I'm in mute, man. I don't know what's up with me tonight. But yeah, man, I think there was some really key things to remember, because that's one of the things I'm learning also as a human being, man. Like, just remembering that it doesn't stop us because of our views and opinions of different sort, like politics. Doesn't mean we can't be friends and family, because God calls us to love everyone, not some people. So that's a big challenge. I got like 2 serious questions, man. Like, they're very serious questions. One is more serious than the other. So I'm going to ask the first one. Do you honestly think that Kanye West could have been the president of the United States? I mean, would he be a good
Man, that's a hard one, man. I mean, America is the land of opportunity, right? Anyone can be president. So, you know, sure.
I told you it would be a serious one, man. The second one is, man, this one, I was told this by a pastor before, and it really stood out to me because a lot of people would be against of the opinions and the views of the current president of the United States. And I remember when he was first voted in, a pastor said, hey, he's placed there because God wanted him to be there. I mean, as a Christian, as a man that's following Christ, do you think that's something that's true? Or do you think sometimes, and I ask this from a very open mind and trying to learn myself, do you think the devil has a hand, or the enemy has a hand in also establishing people to be in certain places?
That's a good question. I think to your point, the devil has a hand in all of our lives if we allow him space. So whether we're a leader or not, whether we're influential or not, if we live a life that is left to our own devices, right? We can become very self-indulgent. We can become very selfish. We can become self-centered. So the devil, has a hand in all of our lives if we give him that, right? So I believe that we have to live for a higher calling, right? That's greater than ourselves, a calling that we give back to others, that we love people, that we forgive people, we honor people. So to that question, I would say, yes, I believe the devil does have a hand in all of our lives if we don't live for something other than ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other side of that is, okay, does God appoint, I don't know, for if I can kind of reframe the question, does God appoint rulers and leaders? Scripture, I believe says that, yes, he does. 1 Peter 2:17 says, show proper respect to everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. So what he's saying there is we have to be subject to the ones that are over us, in a sense, to our government, to our authorities in our lives, because you have to remember, God is big enough that he can work with anyone that he has to work with, right? God is not in heaven right now worrying about who's going to become the president right now. He's not, because he's bigger than that. So what I'm trying to say is that God is big enough, God is great enough that he can use a good leader, he can use a not so good leader. His purposes will still be done regardless of that. That's why I say that it's our place as people to just honor those that are before us. Because when we honor those people that are before us, even especially, and this is the humility part, especially people that we think are mistreating us, if we can still be kind to them, if we can still honor them, if we can still love them, what it does is it communicates to everyone else that it's not about the issue, but it's about your care and consideration for the other person. And that speaks a lot of volume to people.
There it is. I love
Yeah, that's that's an interesting statement, and I wonder about the timeliness of it. Only because I was thinking about a lot of people and the way that they've used the word at different points to support following leadership, to endorse slavery, to any things that are established kind of by the law, to go along with those things, and have said, God put those people in place, so you should honor that. But then conversely, I'm thinking about a passage that I was reading last night, and that is the story of Jacob and Esau. And at the end of it, when Isaac says to Esau, he says, your brother will rule over you, and you will do what your brother says, and you will honor your brother. But when you are ready, you will break free, or when the time comes, you will break free. And so there is a time when people should give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, when people should, slaves respect their masters. But there is also a time when people should rise up and break free. And God has certainly sanctioned that with the Israelites. We've seen that over and over again. So how do you said a little bit earlier, we live in a society that at the end of the day, you voted for this person. How do you say that to someone who might turn around and say to you, that's not entirely true? Because the system as it's set up isn't that the popular vote alone is what elects the president. It involves the electoral college. It's much more complicated than that. And so perhaps someone might say, you might say, yes, we should just, whoever the leader is, we should be subject to them and pray for them and all of that. But they might say, hey, also, perhaps this is a time that we try to change the entire system. What do you say to that person?
I would say, no system is perfect. I would say we can only do that which is in our power to do. So if it's in your power to vote, vote, but know why you're voting. You understand personally why you're voting. If it's in your power to do it, to contribute it, to take the stand, to move, then move. Do what's in your hands. Do what's in your power, right? It's kind of like I think about going to the deli, right? When I go to the deli, I have to take the little number and I have to stand there with the number. That's the system that they set up, right? There is other people there with their numbers ahead of me. So if I were to just bypass all those people and say, hey, I want a, quarter pound of this or whatever, I'm bypassing the system. Now, I know that's kind of a poor example, but what I'm trying to get at is, at least in the US, the system that we have, it's not a perfect system, I'm sure. And I'm not educated enough to really comment on that. But I believe that there's a place where we can only do what we can do. We can always pray and we can always take action, right? And we can always control our responses. So I just feel that if we measure our actions, we know the why behind what we're doing, then I think that's all that we can do at the time, and we leave the rest to God. I'm not against changing the system. I'm not against changing things up or giving people a right or giving people a stand. If anything, we are the ones that are most affected by the results of the system, right? So of course, because we're most affected by it, it's gonna influence us differently. God is not for injustice. He's not at all. So injustice, you see it all throughout Scripture. Injustice is detestable to God. It doesn't matter what kind of injustice it is, and if we're created in His image, then injustice should be detestable to us too, right? But there's only so much that we can do as people, right? At a certain point, and then there's another time that God has to step in and He has to take control of it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know. If I was kind of talking in circles there, so I'm sorry if that wasn't.
No, I think you answered it very much in clarifying. I think that, God does not like injustice either, and that there is a time for everything, and we should do what we can. And yeah.
Most definitely. And going about voting again, there might be someone that's at home that said, you know what, I'm only one person vote. I'm only going to be able to vote one time. What would you say to that person? Because they're obviously saying, well, they're seeing a lot of people at Biden's campaigns, or they're seeing a lot of people at Trump's campaigns, and they're like, you know what, maybe my one vote just is not really necessary. What would your advice be to them?
I would just say, just do what's in your power. Do what's in your power. You have the vote. You've been given this tool to use, so use it. Your voice matters. I know that sounds very cliche, but it does. Your voice matters. Your opinion matters. Your stance matters. So vote, vocalize, speak with one another, speak with people that don't just think the same as you, but speak with people that will challenge you, because we all have some type of form of tunnel vision. I haven't. I know for sure I haven't. I know I'm not as educated as I could be. I know that I'm ignorant with things that I don't even know that, right? I don't know about. So it's important to speak with people of the other side, but don't let it get to a point where you begin to hate the other person or you begin to judge the other person. But learn, just learn, be educated. You've been given a tool, and I just encourage everyone out there, use the tool. When you vote, know why you vote. Know why you're voting that way. Not just because you're going with the flow of things, not because someone else is voting that type of way, but you personally, why do you vote that way?
Yeah, most definitely.
I believe that, man. Shout outs to Sean Rankin. He actually brought up a good point. Vote, like, it's in summary, it's your duty. It's your duty to vote. Go out there and actually to action on that. And that's for both countries too, just as much as it is for the US right now, because we're at the pinnacle right now. Today is the day. Tonight is the night. It will be answered. It will be declared on who will be the leader moving forward, right? And it's going to be very soon for our country here in the Cayman Islands too. So this is a practice run for us. We got to make sure that we get this right, folks. And we do things like this. We push the culture forward. We get on platforms like this so we can have a voice, so we can educate you. at the same time. But there was something that you said earlier, Pastor Steve, where you said, like, know why you are voting. Like, that was a strong statement, very simple statement, but strong, because a lot of people don't know why they're voting. They just go, and sometimes, and what scares me, and this will be the last question before we move on to the next guest, just kind of wrap things up, is what scares me is that I think some people vote for entertainment. Like, I know there was a celebrity once that said, hey, seriously, don't vote Kanye in. This is not a joke. Because there will be, I know it's funny, and I asked the question earlier, but somebody actually put that out there, like, hey, don't vote Kanye. This is not a joke. And I think that some people are doing that when they go to the polls. Like, it's kind of like a college game, and we're going to all have fun, and we're going to do something stupid. I dare you to vote for Trump. I dare you to vote for Biden, not knowing that the statement that is said often, vote for life. It means something. You're actually voting for your life, because if you make the wrong decision and put somebody in office that's not meant to be there, that messes up your life. That's a consequence you have to face for the rest of your life. Do you believe that?
You know, I think it's tough because I think it's a discipline in learning how to educate yourself in this area, right? I think even for me, even this whole year of 2020, you know, being an American living in Cayman, it's been interesting because I feel like I've been in two worlds where my friends in my community back in Fort Lauderdale, right, in America, are going through all these challenges with the political parties, with Black Lives Matter, with everything that's been happening. And I'm trying to be involved, but at the same time, I'm almost feeling like I'm in another spot, and I'm trying to learn and assimilate here in Cayman. And it was very interesting because it was the first time in my life where I realized that I have to be proactive in educating myself on the things that are extremely important in the moment. So what's extremely important in the moment? It's voting. It's understanding your why. If you know your why, it gives you a security because you know why you did what you did. I know it's almost oversimplifying it, but know your why. If you know your why, what it forces you to do is it forces you to educate yourself. It forces you to have conversations. It forces you to listen to other sides. It forces you to take other opinions in. And then when you make that step, when you take that vote, it's a step where it's informed, it's properly prepared, and you're not going on a whim. So to that person that is just voting just because everybody says, hey, go vote, I would just really strongly encourage that person to at least do a little bit of research. What are the issues that are very prevalent to you? What are the issues that are very important to you? And just as a word of caution, this is why it's so interesting, especially with these two parties now. There might be values or issues on the Republican side that you're 100% for, but there also might be those issues on the Democratic side that you're 100% for. And so it's not so much about just the issues, but it's learning how to process through those things, right? So I just think we just have to really put a value on educating ourselves, on knowing where we stand when we cast our vote.
There it is, man. Stephen De Silva, aka Pastor De Silva, for Stemmer Church, Grand Cayman. Great guy, great mentor. I call him my accountability partner, so I trust him. And the things that he says is he comes from a wise place, man. So, and I love your answer where you said you don't have the answer for everything. Really tell that you are a man of God indeed. So thank you so much, Pastor Stephen. I called you Stephen, but for a lot of people, they refer to you as Pastor. It's an honor and a privilege to have had you on this platform. And we hope to have you on because you have a very powerful testimony. So we can't wait to bring you on and just to kind of hear about your story here in the Cayman Islands, migrating from the U.S. to here and how different it is to settling here in Grand Cayman. But thank you so much for being a part of the Homeland Daily. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you guys for having us. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Definitely. We can't wait to see you again. Have a good night, man.
You too. Thanks.
All right, man. So we're not going to even delay any further. That was a great conversation, right, guys?
Yes,
what do you
definitely.
Yeah, I'm curious about you guys. Do you think that pastors should endorse candidates?
So, Liz, that's a really good man. I
I
see why
mean,
she's single now.
well,
That's difficult question.
here's the thing, right? You'll see other people involved, like celebrities that are constantly back and forth, and they already have their whole tribe of people. You see, senators that have these whole tribes of people, and they're already out there trying to tell people who to vote for. So I think as a pastor, you really have your duty and your truth as well as to who you think,
Yeah.
to me, would be who you want as president. So I mean, yeah, I think it should be public to a sense if the pastor wants that. Now, if the pastor does not want to be public with that, I don't think it should be like forced, like tell us who you want to vote for. But I mean, to me, it's he could be influential to his whole community and his whole church. So I mean, yeah, I would.
I love that. Love that, Rico. That's the West Bay blood coming out of him, man. Smartness. Before we move on to our next guest, just want to remind you, like Naomi said, good time to remind K-Man is a deadline to register to vote is January the 5th, 2021. To be eligible to vote for the next election, you got to do it, man. So please go out there and get registered to vote. It's January the 5th. It is shocking to see the amount of 18-year-olds here in Grand Cayman that is not registered to vote.
Yeah.
What are you playing around with your life? All right, please go and vote and get registered to vote. And give you the directions that can tell you where to go.
It's really easy. It's super easy.
It very much is, man. Sean also made a statement before we get in. If the church wants to back a party, they should pay taxes too.
Oh,
That was a good one. That was a good one. Tax on tithes? Is that what we're saying here? Is that what we're saying? I don't know. Sean, that was really good. Sean should be a part of our show very soon. This guy is actually comes from a really good background, and he's from here in the Grand Cayman, but living currently in LA. But a great individual, man. So I hope to get him on the podcast one day. Rob Taylor is like, amen. Church should pay also. Let's move on to our next guest, Damon Cameron, all the way from Tampa, Florida. This is a family member of mine, guys. That's why the name is so familiar. We're all D's, and believe it or not, our middle names are all the same. It'll be the first and the last time I'll ever say it on this platform. My correct name is Dane Carl Cameron. And the rest of my brothers are also Carl. So it's Damien Carl Cameron, Dion Carl Cameron, Denzel Carl Cameron. So my dad has a sense of humor, I guess. All right. Damien, what's up, bro?
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
What's up?
It's good to have you, man. We always say the most important asset you can give somebody is your time. So it's a privilege to have you on the show. I think the world of you, but let's see what the viewers think, man. We're going to jump into this right now.
It's an honor to be here, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much for coming, Damien. You know, Dane has said wonderful things about you, like he was saying earlier in the show. Can you just tell us a little bit about your background? You're wearing the I Love New York hat. It's my understanding you're not in New York currently. So tell us a little bit about, kind of where you've lived in the States and just the overview of your background and some of your experiences.
So I was born in Manhattan, New York. But I was only just a few months old before I went to Jamaica. And I kind of grew up there up until the point where I was about, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I went to New York to live with my mom just for a few years, really briefly in Brooklyn. Before we had some tragedy in our family in New York, like many of us had in the 80s. And we moved back to Florida, which is what most people do after they leave New York. At the time, Florida was really, in my eyes, leaving from a place like Jamaica, and I was in Kingston, and then going to New York with all these people, and it's like cultured. And then Florida at the time was really just about to surface. Hip hop was on the rise, but it was really still up in New York, and dance hall was in Jamaica. It was in Florida, but it was, people didn't, So I was there when Florida began to rise and become this like crazy place where it is now, where it's just a haven for all kind of cultures. That experience of being in Jamaica, but not being Jamaican or Jamaican enough, and going to Brooklyn, where by now I had a Jamaican accent, and I would talk funny, and I began to stutter. And then just when I began to understand, New York, I went to Florida. I mean, polar opposites, literally, almost, right? And then, I had all these accents, both Jamaican and New York, and then it was Florida. But being in all these places taught me a lot about people. What we faced here in America, yes, it's racism, but classism is no different in Jamaica. Although it may not be about race, and race is a factor in some cases, whether it's colorism, or just blatant racism, it still exists. It exists all over the world. I think that 2020 has shown us that. So being from different places and just seeing it from different ways, it's been a reality. It's been a reality check. One of my experiences was, I remember when I was must have been about 11 or 12 years old. I was going to this really nice school in Broward County called American Heritage. It's a really Ivy League school. It's just, Dan Marino's son used to carpool there with us and everything. It was crazy. There's a teacher there who used to basically pick on me. I mean, for lack of a better sense, almost. I mean, if I had to say, probably 97% of the school was white. 2% of it was probably Latino, and then me and maybe 2 people or 3 people in the entire school were black. One of the persons who actually in the class was a Jamaican young lady, and she detested me. I have no idea why. She was Indian Jamaican, and her family was from Jamaica, but she detested me for whatever reason. And from that, I began to try to become a chameleon. That no matter where I went, I was able to speak to people and make them understand. And in a crazy way, and Dane, I think you know this by now, that has become the cross that I bared that saved me. The cross you bear normally saves you. The problems you actually go through normally become your blessings. So in a weird way, me going all these places and experiencing different things, it prepared me for a life where I was going to be speaking to a whole bunch of different people. And I'm currently, I was before this recently in sales. Like I recently got promoted, but for the most part of my life, I've been in sales. So I've been able to make a living and even draw people closer to Christ, just because I'm able to be relatable to them, just be able to speak to them and understand them, So,
yes, man, good. That's good.
Yeah, well, and there's so many people right now, especially in New York and California, all like their shops, almost like as if they're preparing for a catastrophe. This is something that like a type of shops that should tomorrow be a day where you're staying inside, or should we be celebrating? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on who you're going for, right? To be honest with you, like Liz said, there are two sides of it that I feel as if there's, at this point in America, I'm sad to say this, there's no winning. If America doesn't win, none of us wins. My thoughts are, if Donald Trump wins the election, there could be protests and riots. I can almost guarantee there will be, which will just, bring more stress to the struggle that we've been going through our whole lives in this entire year. If the Democrats win and Joe Biden takes place, then I believe that we would have probably just incited a racial war, because the Trump supporters aren't the most forgiving, maybe forgetful, but not forgiving. And I hate that. I'm not trying to be biased here. I'm just saying that there's a good portion of them that adhere to white supremacy. I'm going to say this clearly, clear as day. And they're not afraid to use their guns. And I live in Florida, where it's actually shaped like a gun. people in Florida are different. You see it on the news. I mean, I think Charlemagne says that the craziest people are in the Bronx and in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you live here, you will understand what I'm saying.
Florida not too
We don't care.
What's going on now?
They don't care. They don't follow the rules.
No.
Like what rules? Like they're gonna live their life. So tomorrow, it really doesn't matter who wins or loses. I just hope that people have enough class and have enough respect and dignity to not put it in someone else's face, or for the people who might have lost to feel as if it's over. Because I Nipsey Hussle said, the marathon continues. It's far from over. It doesn't matter what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, man, that was a good point to bring up right there. You know what I want to ask Damien is that I am so proud, and I think I've told you this a lot of times. I am so proud to be Caymanian. Like don't get me wrong, we have our issues. We have things that need to be fixed. But I'm pretty sure everyone on this call that is Caymanian would say, I'm proud. I'm proud to be Caymanian. There's nothing that's going to discredit that ever. Like we would hope.
Yeah.
But what I want to ask you, man, is a very simple question, and it probably is going to open up a whole lot when I ask this question. Are you proud to be American?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing about it is that we look at America and we say, you know, is it the land or is it the people? I believe it's the people. And some of the most interesting people from all over the world make this place their home. There have been places like in history, like Egypt, like Babylon, even like Rome, that the people who were citizens there. And if you came there, you could live there, but you weren't really a citizen. Even in places like England in the Middle Ages, it was the same way. France was the same way. America is really it was the first and only country that said, I don't care where you're from or what you're going to do, you can come here and you will be part of us. We'll be part of you. You can be us. And you can leave that. You can call yourself an American. There's places that, you know, like say, if you're born in Jamaica, you're Jamaican. If you're born in Africa, you're African. You know, but when you're born in America, you have to see the person to know what race they are. It isn't like saying that I'm from India. I'm Indian. It isn't like that. When you say that you're American, you're like, okay, so what kind of American are you? Spanish American? Are you Jamaican American? Are you African American? You know, just parts of it. And
yeah,
you know, and then when it comes to, I've been to a few places in my life, right? And whenever I go there, I can appreciate it, and then there's always something about America that makes me miss home. One thing is the convenience of things. It's just anything that you want, you can find. And anything that you want to be, regardless of what everybody is saying, you can actually become. I mean, I personally know people who were once homeless, who are multimillionaires now. And I know multimillionaires who were homeless. I mean, I've watched Jay-Z go from Marcy Projects. I used to live in Brooklyn. I know Marcy Projects. My brother was a victim of the crack cocaine era. I lived that. He came out of there, and he is the first hip hop billionaire. I've seen him shake hands with the president of the United States, a black president of the United States. It's one of the only places that I truly still believe where you could be anything you want to be.
And you know, like speaking of immigration issues, do you think the current administration was doing a good in terms of how they were like patrolling, I guess, the immigration issues that they have?
No, the current administration, no. I mean, let's be honest. At first, he said the first thing was, we're gonna go ahead and have a wall in Mexico, and the Mexicans are gonna build it. Right? That's like insane. Like, it's not gonna happen. And the Mexicans are like, what? We're not gonna do that, right? No, we're not gonna do that. And then he puts, you know, a Muslim ban on people from Syria. Now, at the time, we had people who were going to college whose parents are from Syria, and maybe their parents were visiting from Syria, they're visiting college, and they can't go back and forth. And it's like, these are just honest working Americans. You know, it doesn't matter where they're from. It's just like, you can't take people from a certain demographic and just say, these people are terrorists, or it's a H-hole country. You just can't generalize people. So the administration has never. There's a few things that I give them credit for, but immigration is just not one of them at all.
How are you feeling tonight?
Anxious is an understatement. I don't know the word, but it's a very eerie feeling. 4 years ago, when it was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, I felt a lot more safe. I was like, no way, Donald Trump is not going to win. I mean, it's like I felt like, honestly, I felt like women would come out. I mean, it was the first chance of a female president, and
Yeah.
besides, the abortion and things like that, and certain emails, people saw the name Clinton and were like, "Oh, Clinton, the good old days." The good old days. So I thought that was going to happen. It didn't happen, and when I woke up I actually fell asleep 4 years ago. I was like, "Yeah, what up?" I woke up next morning. I lied to you not. I went outside, and it was overcast outside. I went into the gas stations, and people weren't as jolly to say, "Hey, good morning. How are you doing?" It seemed like everyone was just like, So, as a Christian, I know that it doesn't matter what happens tonight. What's happening tonight, I believe, is a part of prophecy, regardless of which way it goes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's we really need to elaborate on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just go through this really quickly. I'm not going to have a Bible class here, but the book of Daniel breaks down several kingdoms that would lead right up to the end of the world. Beginning at the kingdom that he was in. Jerusalem was sacked by the Babylonians, by King Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And the dream was basically a statue that made of gold, silver, bronze, and then iron mingled with clay. And the king was troubled. And I'm sure many of you have heard the story. They were troubled, and he wanted to know what the dream meant. And Daniel prayed to God and found out what the dream meant. And when it told him, he said, "You are the head of gold. After you, an inferior kingdom will come. After Babylon, it was Media Persia." He described Media Persia in detail. After that, it was the Bronze Kingdom, which was Greece. Greece defeated Media Persia. And then after that, it was the Iron Kingdom, which was Rome, and Rome defeated Greece. He said that after that, that Rome would be divided into several kingdoms. I think it was 10, and then 3 of them would be gone. But it was 7, which is basically modern day Europe. Rome was never really conquered. It was separated and divided up into barbarian tribes, Germany and France and Italy and so on and so forth. But it says that kingdom would try to almost replicate itself again. The same policies that it carried, that it had at the time, whether it had Democrat, it had Republican, it had these great statues. Even when you look at DC, it bears a strange resemblance to Rome. The pillars, the Constitution, the people, and even the white nationalist mentality, as well as it being the majority of it Catholic, which was the belief at the time. I have a strong belief that the Catholic belief will come back into America, and it'll become the dominant belief in America. But not besides that, those kingdoms in Europe that would kind of replicate itself and give this the same image across, that same European, that same Catholicism, it will rise again. And even I think Revelation describes it best. It says that the beast is going to have horns like a lamb, but it's going to speak like a dragon. So when you look at that, you can already know the lamb was, of course, Jesus, and the dragon would be Satan. I mean, that's obvious, right? So in this example, then the beast, this kingdom, is going to have Christian principles, or it's going to look like a Christian, country, but its laws, how it speaks, is going to be speaking like Satan. I believe that America is that kingdom. I believe that we are the final superpower, and the things that are supposed to be happening are all, God's will, how it's supposed to happen.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's a very deep take, man. I'll tell you that straight up.
Yeah.
Listen, we're coming to that time.
Too, that people, believe him, but a lot of people believe that it was prophesied that Donald Trump would come into office, and it's super weird thing. Liz, Rico, and everyone who's listening, it's super weird. I'm bearing my heart up to you guys in this way. It's like Biden wants to push the Equality Act, which gives homosexual the same rights, or put it on the same level as like race, right, or even gender. So to say, if a doctor doesn't want to perform a transsexual surgery, that he can be sued. The hospital can be sued. If churches don't allow the homosexuals to come into church and actually be officers of the church, they can be closed down. They can be penalized for that. Now, I don't believe that should happen, right? Now, on the other fence, we have white supremacy. So I'm, as a black man in America who's also Christian, this is the war going on in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that either way that I choose, I'm never going to have everything that I want. And I think Diddy said it best. I was watching Revolt today, and he brought about something called the Our Black Party. We should just have our own party altogether. Because the choices are just not there.
Yeah.
And even myself, I've been really, honestly, I live in Tampa, Florida, and I've been looking at the offices, school board district, parks and recreation, just equality. I've been looking at different offices, city council, commissioner, state district representative. There's so much different offices. It isn't just mayor, senator, governor. I mean, there are hundreds of offices in our state. And if anything has taught me, I'm like, you know what? We need to sit at the table. And it's just not going to happen by complaining and protesting all the time. Even JC said that we're past kneeling now. I need to sit at the table. And I'm seriously considering in the near future running for some kind of office. Don't seem like anything else would change. You know what I mean? If I don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm fed up. And I speak for other Americans when I say that.
Well said. This has been a really in-depth show, in-depth conversation. I think we learned a lot from both perspective and just different opinions. And we're coming to that time. It's pretty much that time. We got to wrap up. Unfortunately, we got to keep honoring our time and very strict to it. But I just want to kind of ask one question before you go. You said we can't have it all. We can't get everything. Either way you spin it, we're going to lose something. What's one of the things you hope that changes in America, regardless, starting tomorrow, or the process of it starts?
Oh my gosh, that's an easy one. I can tell you this: people just need to be nice. I mean, it's. I don't understand how you can just not be nice. If I have a cousin right now, I'll just put it out there, who is voting for Trump. My first cousin, raised up in Brooklyn, everything. And I can't understand why he would do that. But he's my first cousin. Am I going to let politics and, pardon my Parisian, but two old white guys who don't really care about me get in between me and my cousin? But at the same time, the Bible says that you're going to be separating from people in the last stage. Your cousins, your best friends, these people who you thought were going to be riding for you, you're going to be separating from based on these principles. So, and it's ideology. So I wrestle with that. And I'm hoping that if nothing else, if just equality. And you know what? I'm Jamaican, and I don't endorse homosexuality. But they're still human beings. These are human beings we're talking about. Okay, and I think that we can reach them with the open arms more than fists. I think that if we just love each other and we just treat each other with respect and dignity, that we'll see that America can be great. It never was great, but it can be. And if we just take some time to put our differences and just say, you know what, you're still a human being, you're still an American citizen, we're still going through the same problems, we still face the same issues. Right now, I believe that the world is looking at America. Some consider it a laughing stock, and some have hope for it. In these past few months, I've heard countries, and it hurts my heart. I've heard countries come and say, all kind of things about America. And I'm like, wow, America was always there for you guys. America was the open gate for everybody to come. And now that Donald Trump is in charge, everyone's like, oh, America is this, America is that. America isn't what the president is. America is still America. And I hope that we can see that tomorrow and we can get past all of this hate.
Listen, we're gonna end on that note. America is not Donald Trump. Wow.
It's not Donald Trump.
That is a great.
This is America.
Oh, I am not American. There are many Canadians who can vote.
I'm Jamaican.
I am not one of them.
This is like, you ain't gonna affect my status in this country.
No. More than
Ain't gonna
anything
happen.
else, I'm a child of the kingdom. I'm a child of the kingdom. I'm not from here. I'm just visiting.
David, hate to let you go, man, but we're at that point. We're at that time, and we know that a very important thing is happening right now. So the world wants to kind of switch off this. And
I'm watching the news right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. So this is a big deal, man. So people are going to be watching now. Damien, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
I love you to death, man, and hopefully we just gained you some new family members here on the Homeland.
Oh, and one thing, guys, I miss you guys. I miss Grand Cayman. I talk about you guys all the time. I cannot wait to come back there and go to Peppers and go back to Stingray City and just have a brunch and just do what we do. Rico, you know what I'm saying, man. I'll see you soon, bro.
I got you, bro. I got you.
All right, man.
All right, man. Have a good night, bro.
You too.
Man, we had so much fun tonight. I don't know if it's gonna end the same way,
right?
But I can say that we had a lot of fun, and regardless of what happens, I think that we don't even have to, unless you guys want to. I don't think we have to have any fancy way to end the show tonight by giving our final toss, because I think that was a very powerful statement that was said. That America is not Donald Trump, and that just spoke major to me. So regardless of what happens tonight, hey. That 4 years might be detrimental, but at the same time, we have to remember that it's not, Donald Trump is not America. But I still want to get your views before we wrap up. So we'll start with Liz first, and we'll get 20 seconds in before we call this an end.
Yeah, I think my final thought is just that there are so many Caymanians who have dual citizenship to the U.S. and Cayman. And I hope that those Caymanians who do have a voice, who are able to exercise the right to vote, did so, because the U.S. as it stands right now is a superpower, and that if you have that privilege, then you should contribute. And we have a population that has tons of American expats as well. And so I hope that those who were able to did participate in the process. And I hope that they did their research ahead of time. And while I know I bag on Rico often for his conspiracy theories or whatever, but seriously, I hope that people did do due diligence of their research and actually just go in on facts in the voting process and not alternative facts. And to remember to do the same as we move into our own elections coming up.
Yes.
Rico, what about you, homie?
I think my last thing would be make sure that you're registered to vote. Last day is January 2021. So make sure that you guys vote for the Cayman election. And also for this one, I would say nothing surprises me in America. If I wake up tomorrow and Kanye West is the president, I'm not gonna be shocked. America runs off of reality TV, scam, all that different stuff. So I'm just not surprised. But all I can say is, America, you're awesome. And hopefully we'll open up soon once you can get your crazy acts together about the COVID thing.
Man. I know Rico was going to end us off with a bang. I kind of felt that. Man, I really don't have anything really crazy or fancy to say at all. I was to be honest with you, man. I think my main concern is right now is just our election. And just that number that I read earlier about the amount of 18-year-olds here in the Cayman Islands that are not registered to vote. I'm just very disappointed by that. And please, if you know someone that's 18, just turned 18, or been 18 for a long time now.
In the words of Joe Biden, come on.
Please, and go get registered to vote. Elections.ky gives you all the information you need. And please get registered, man. You have till January 5th, and do not wait till next week. Don't start this whole K-Man thing where I'll be like, yeah, I get it down to school, mommy. I get it done. No. Go now. Go tomorrow. It's open tomorrow. All right. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Episode 71 of the Homeland Daily. Don't forget you can catch us on the recap on Spotify, on YouTube, and of course on Facebook on demand. And all you have to do is simply search the Homeland Daily. We have up to 72 episodes available, and you can watch it now. Streamline, well, 71, sorry, but I'm about to be 72 next week. So go and watch that. All right. We appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Sorry for running over, but we had a great show tonight. And keep glued to CNN or Fox, whichever one is your favorite. We'll see you again next week, Tuesday, for the Homeland Daily. And there's my son just popping at the right.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record, for the record, for the record.
No. Hi. How are you, son?
Good.
Good. Oh, Rico bounced super quick.
You know, he wasn't playing around, man. He just got out of here.
Yeah, all right.
He's like, I am out.